So I'm graduated now, which is wild. 4 years in a degree in documentary. The way my university works is that the quarter after you graduate, so for me this summer, you still get to work. So I'm employed until the end of August in my 3 different jobs at my school. But after August, I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm taking the summer to apply to a bunch of stuff, and we'll see what happens. So I wanted to share that experience of what I gained, what I'm feeling right now, some advice if you're looking at film school or you're not really sure if you want to do it, and then maybe in a few years when I've hopefully locked down a job, I can kind of reflect on like, okay, what do I still feel like I've gained? What do I wish I'd done differently? Starting with the route I think most people expect you to go down when you say you're going to film school, which is going out to LA, going to Hollywood, being on these big production sets, starting off as a production assistant, and then sort of working your way up the chain. That's the kind of thing I don't necessarily think you need film school for. I definitely have some friends who are in film school or just graduated and now they're able to sort of start higher up that chain. But I feel like it's important to recognize that that is definitely not the only thing you can do with a film degree. You know, you can work at film festivals and program films and be a part of putting on these big events. Marketing is also another really big avenue to go down, which I think for a lot of people sounds kind of icky. It's like, oh, I'm doing advertising. But I do know a lot of folks who have gone down the marketing route, whether that's just for a few years or made a career out of it, and they're doing really awesome stuff for nonprofits or arts organizations or companies and people that they actually really care about. Another route is teaching, which of course often requires more school and more money, but it also puts you in this really awesome collaborative, creative environment, and you get to share your knowledge, which I think is super cool. It's actually something I'm looking at pretty in depth. There's also freelance, which I think is one of those other things you don't necessarily need film school for, but film school does give you access to equipment and gives you kind of a lead and an edge in terms of stylistic techniques, understanding how to create story, just sort of the core essence of filmmaking. And those are the ones just off the top of my head. You know, there's all sorts of things opening up in 360 video, there's live event, and just like a plethora of positions you can have with that. At the end of the day, just like with any degree, but I think specifically with film school, it has a lot more to do with what you're doing while you're in school than the degree itself that's going to get you a job. As far as where to go, I personally would recommend an urban community if you can. I'm in Chicago and I love it. If that's not an option for you, then I would recommend looking for places that have really active arts communities. What I'm trying to encourage is going somewhere where you can, of course, make connections within school and with your peers and with your instructors, but also with the outside community. One advantage I have of being in Chicago is that, sure, I have a lot of friends who have just graduated with me, who are also doing projects, we're still working together, but some of them are moving. So I've also started to make connections with local film festivals, local film collectives, just people who are already active in this area. That was a process I was able to start while I was in college, and one I can continue now that I'm sort of out of that bubble. I think if you're in a smaller town or somewhere that doesn't really have a big film or video scene, that's still something you can do. Look for active arts groups and communities who could use your talents, and also just clients, like people who need ads done, anybody who needs video work. You'll notice as you're applying and kind of browsing for universities that there's sort of film theory colleges. They're going to emphasize on lectures, on film discussion, on writing about films, on academia, which is totally a route you can go down. Like, I know people who have done that. They've gone on to grad school. That's their career. That's super, super awesome. But if what you want to do is making movies and more hands-on and more active, then making sure that there's an active production element is really important. Some things that you should keep a lookout for would be equipment centers, production spaces, areas where you can shoot, classes that are specifically focused on different parts of filmmaking that have a workshop element, so you're not just talking about how to set up a shot, you're actually going out and doing it. Any program that puts an emphasis on you getting your hands on gear and making stuff is A+. You want to look out for that. Speaking of gear, that is a part of one of the biggest recommendations I have for once you get to film school, if that's where you decide to go. I worked at one of our camera and sound rental houses, and that was one of the best decisions I made in college. I started there at the end of my freshman year, I worked all the way through, and I was constantly getting my hands on equipment. Even then, I am pretty run and gun because I'm documentary and I tend to keep things small, so there are still like light kits and pieces of equipment that I wish I'd been able to get my hands on that I just didn't quite have the opportunity or the right project for. So really, the more you can touch gear and the more you can use it and learn about it and just learn the process of troubleshooting, the better. I think most people who have gone to film school will agree that working with your classmates is one of the best things you can do while you're there. It can be kind of intimidating at first. It was for me, and as somebody who's very shy and quiet, it's something I wish I had kind of broken out into sooner. But just go up to people in your classes and ask them about, hey, what are you working on? What are you doing? Do you need help with a project? That's a big one. Like if you're nervous and not sure if you're ready to start making your own stuff with the help of other people yet, because that can be a really nerve-wracking thing, then start with helping them. You'd be surprised how quickly you'll be on set and, oh no, the second AC couldn't show up. Could you help out? Or, hey, we need another grip. Let me show you how to set up this light. And you're learning things super, super fast. And people are also learning to trust you and liking working with you. And then the more you do that, the more you'll build those relationships and the easier it's going to be to ask people to work on your stuff, which I guarantee you everybody wants to do. Everyone wants to get their name on something. Everybody wants to get more experience. Everybody just wants to work. Also, don't forget about your professors. Not every single one of them is going to be your favorite or great, but when you find that professor that you just really click with and you like what they talk about, you're learning a lot from them, you just really enjoy their class, build a relationship with them. Go to their office hours and say, hey, I like this thing you talked about in class. Can we discuss it a little bit further? If you just finish a project, ask if you can get some feedback from them. Ask them about what they're doing. Learn from them. Grow from their experience. They have a lot of it, and if they're teaching, odds are they want to share it with you. Go to screenings and film festivals. This is a great way to start making those connections I mentioned earlier that are outside of the bubble of your university. Festival people are generally super nice. They're looking for filmmakers. They're looking for people with a story to tell and things to say, and they want to help you. Volunteer at festivals if you can. I've done that before, and it was an amazing experience. And also submit your films. But if you submit your film and if you get in, you should go to other screenings at that festival because it's polite, it's nice, and you learn so much. I really recommend short film screenings because you get to watch a lot of content from a lot of different people back to back to back. And also you tend to make a lot of short films while you're in film school. It's a really good way to start a career. But until you start that process, I think most people don't think about short films as their own art form, but they really are. And learning that story arc and the way to work within that medium is really, really beneficial. Last piece of advice, and then I promise I'll get off my soapbox. Just go to school. Odds are your university will have more to offer than just film stuff, and you should experience that and take advantage of it while you're there. Like, you're paying tuition for it, so why not? While I did a lot of film school stuff in school, one of my other most valuable experiences was doing a lot of LGBTQ activism stuff and going to queer clubs and drag shows. It allowed me to grow in this community and learn more and just be a well-rounded person. Some of the most interesting filmmakers are also interesting people who do interesting things. So look around to find what's interesting and just do it. Thank you for watching. My battery's about to die. My name is Connor O'Keefe. I make videos about film stuff and queer stuff. I also just got a new apartment and I'm in my adult life now, I guess, sort of. So expect some cool new things from me, I hope. Such a terrible outro. I'm so sorry. My battery's gonna die. Thank you for watching. I will talk to you later. Bye-bye.